in the middle of questioning this doctor, this plastic surgeon, this esteemed plastic surgeon, he threw a tantrum in the middle of my questioning, got up, threw his papers down, and stormed out of the room. Have you ever heard about this? Have you ever heard of anything like this? You want to learn what this is about? Come join me for a walk on the beach as I share with you exactly what this is all about. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury attorney. My client had a procedure known as a blepharoplasty, which is basically eyelid surgery, elective eyelid surgery. Now, as a result of the treatment she received, her treatment was botched. Her plastic surgery was botched. This woman could no longer close her eyes. The most she could close them was a little bit more than halfway, which meant, unfortunately for her, that her eyes would dry out. And it was a very, very terrible condition. When she slept, her eyes would not close fully. It only closed a little bit more than halfway. And that created a huge problem. When she would go into work, she had to wear sunglasses when she went into work because she didn't want people to laugh at her. When she blinked, her eyelids did not go down fully, and she did not have the ability to lubricate her eyes with the tear ducts, natural tear ducts in her eyes. It was awful. It was terrible. So now my client sued her plastic surgeon. This is somebody who came highly recommended to her. This is somebody who she trusted, and other people that she knew had also trusted this guy. The doctor, being a cocky, arrogant guy, denied he did anything wrong. He said, "Why are you suing me? I did absolutely nothing wrong. I helped this patient." And this patient was so grateful that she went ahead and sent me all these birthday cards. She sent me these gifts. She sent me all these wonderful things thanking me for what I did. Now, that's a fascinating look into the doctor's perception of what occurred, as well as the patient's perception of what occurred. Because shortly after the procedure, the patient thought that everything went well. However, as the days wore on, she began to realize that there were problems. And in follow-up, she began to realize that there were problems. And now, this doctor kept telling her, everything's fine, just rub your eyelids, everything will be just fine. It takes time. Well, months and months went by, and guess what? Nothing was fine. She went to one doctor, she went to another doctor, she went to another specialist. Every single doctor she went to said, "What the hell happened to you? This should not have happened. Clearly, if the procedure was done properly, this would never have happened." She decides she has no choice but to go ahead and try and start a lawsuit against this plastic surgeon. She comes to me, I have the case evaluated, I speak to some of her treating doctors who all agree that this plastic surgeon, this well-known plastic surgeon, violated the basic standards of medical care, caused her significant harm and injury. And the big problem for her was that nothing, no further surgery, no further medical care and treatment was ever going to fix this problem. Even if she went ahead and had this procedure to lengthen or try and loosen up the eyelids, there was no guarantee. And now this patient was not just scarred from actually doing this procedure, but psychologically and mentally scarred and terrified about going ahead with another surgical procedure where there was absolutely no guarantee, and in fact, there was a good chance that her condition would get worse. During the course of this lawsuit, I had an opportunity to actually question this particular plastic surgeon, to learn from him and find out what he did and why, to ask him questions about his procedure, to learn how it was that this patient wound up with these particular injuries if he did nothing wrong. You should know that when this doctor came into the attorney's office, this was pre-COVID times, the doctor walked in like a total schlep. He walked in wearing a sweatshirt and sweatpants. Now, I will share something with you. It's an observation that I've made over more than 33 years of practice. Plastic surgeons tend to be probably the best dressed physicians I have ever encountered. Why? Because for them, it's all about perception. For them, it's all about how they look and how the patients perceive how they look. So I find that these plastic surgeons are always meticulously dressed. Beautiful suits, beautiful shirts, beautiful ties, and their hair is beautifully done. Everything down to a T, except for this guy. This guy came in all cocky and arrogant, wearing a sweatshirt and sweatpants, as if he had just come from the gym. In fact, I think he did. But having said that, what was most remarkable is that during the course of questioning this arrogant SOB, and clearly he was arrogant, he poked his nose down at me, at my client, he insulted me, he insulted my client repeatedly during my questioning, and now, One of the questions I asked him was a very simple, straightforward medical anatomy question. The doctor got so fed up, he started screaming and yelling at me. "How dare you ask me questions like this? This is beneath me." He took his papers, he slammed them on the table, he started screaming louder and said, "I'm not taking any more of this crap," and he got up and he stormed out of the room. His lawyer is sitting there with his mouth open. His own attorney couldn't believe what his client just did. Basically, his client threw a tantrum as if he were a 2-year-old and then stormed out of the room because he didn't get what he wanted. That was fascinating. I turned to the court stenographer who was in the room recording all of my questions and all of the answers the doctor gave. You know why they're there? It's because the answers that the doctor gives represents his sworn testimony. And even though this question and answer session takes place before we ever get to court, before we ever get to trial, his answers carry the same exact weight in this conference room, in the attorney's conference room, as if he is testifying in court, at trial, in front of a judge and in front of a jury. I turned to the court stenographer and I said, "Have you ever seen anything like that in your entire career?" She looked at me shaking her head saying, "I have never, ever seen a doctor do anything like that." And you know what? At that moment, I knew we were going to win this case. I knew that this doctor had no defense. I knew that this guy was such an arrogant SOB that there was no possible way the defense attorney would ever allow his client to get up in front of a jury. Because if he pulled that kind of nonsense in front of a judge and in front of a jury, they would think horribly of this guy. And they would think that this guy is a piece of crap, right? All because of his outbursts and because of his attitude and his nasty comments. And they knew that they had a problem. Interestingly, to close the loop on this story, we learned about 6 months later that the New York State Department of Health had revoked this doctor's license. Why? Because the Department of Health had determined that this guy was an imminent danger to the health of the public, of the people of New York. And they decided to revoke his license permanently. Why do I share this quick information with you? I share it with you to open your eyes and to help you understand how these types of medical malpractice cases work in the state of New York. You know, I realize you're likely watching this because you have questions or concerns about your own matter. Well, if your matter did happen in New York, but you have not yet started a lawsuit, but are thinking of doing so, and still have questions that need to be answered, what I invite you to do is pick up the phone and call me. You know, I answer questions like yours every single day, and I'd love to chat with you. You can reach me at 516-487-8207, or by email at Gerry, Gerry, at Oginski-law.com. That's it for today's video. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have a fantastic day.